Rocky Top Insider presents the RTI Rim Runner with Bob Baskerville and Ryan Shumpert.
Welcome. Time for another postseason edition of the RTI Rim Runner. I'm Bob Baskerville, joined as always by Ryan Shumpert. Baseball season's not far away for the majors. I see your Cubs hat on. Ryan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Yeah, no. It sounds like a PCA extension coming. Opening day this week. Vols going to Chicago. It felt like a good time to throw the Cubs hat on.
Most definitely. Excuse me. Yeah, and we have March Madness. We have Major League Baseball starting. We also have allergy season coming. So all of a sudden my voice is getting crackly. But we do have a lot to cover today. So let's get to it. The NCAA tournament is underway. We are happy to report that the guys from Rocky Top are alive and kicking in the Sweet 16. We'll recap a very hectic first weekend in the tournament for the Vols, including a round of 32 game that had everyone on the edge of their seats. Then we'll look ahead to the Vols' next opponent and size up the remaining four teams left in the Midwest region. And now that's going to be moving into the Windy City, like we were just saying, and we'll take a quick tour around the other regions as we are now mere days away from sending a new class of Final Four teams to Indianapolis. But before all that, I want to quickly remind you to like and subscribe to the show. If you're watching the show on the Rocky Top Insider YouTube channel, make sure you smash that like and subscribe button. It always makes a difference for us as we're trying to build that following. And also, if you're listening to us as a podcast, sounds good to me too, you can do that. And we're available wherever you listen to your podcast. Just make sure you make us part of your regular rotation by downloading us. That would be much appreciated on our part. The opening tip: the Vols take care of business against one of March Madness's darling teams in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And then they advance to the Sweet 16 with a hard-fought and sometimes agonizing win in the second round. Tennessee's first opponent in the NCAA tournament was a team that many felt was capable of giving the Vols and many teams trouble, as the 32-1 Miami Redhawks matched up against the boys after winning a convincing first four game against SMU. Ryan, I think the MO on Miami's game plan was clear when Tennessee had to face them. It was bottle up the threes and dominate the paint.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think Tennessee was, they got a early reminder of how much they had to get out on those 3-point shooters. I didn't feel like Tennessee necessarily played bad defense on some of those first couple of possessions, but just not quite as tight as they needed to be. And Miami, Ohio showed them that if there's any slither, they can make you pay and knock down shots. So, I thought you saw Tennessee do a good job of not panicking or not overreacting to that, not, just flying by on pump fakes or anything like that, but doing a little bit better job of closing out and really just, choked out Miami. It felt like overwhelmed them with their athleticism, overwhelmed them inside.
I'm glad they stayed patient because they were testing my patience early. The way Miami hit 5 of their first 6 shots and 3 of those were threes. But to your point, the Vols stayed the course. Miami only connected on 29% of their field goal attempts the rest of the way after that scorching start. And the Vols kind of held serve with them offensively as well during that time. Just the one thing I don't think I've seen in many NCAA tournament games for sure was the number of air balls Miami ended up shooting. I think Miami exerted a ton of energy in those first 5 or 6 minutes. And it started to take its toll because one thing we know about Tennessee defensively, and this defense may not be as elite as it's been in years past, but it's still damn good. And, they specialize in making teams uncomfortable. I mean, Miami shot, I think, over 40 3-pointers in their first 4 game against SMU. They hit 16 of them. And I was certain going into that game with Tennessee, it was like Miami won't get that many attempts on the 3. I mean, SMU, I thought, was really pitiful defensively against them. So I had a lot of faith in Tennessee taking care of that. And I think Miami only shot about 28, 29 3-pointers against us.
Yeah, and yeah, I think the number was after the fast start, like 4 for 24 or something to that
Yeah.
extent. So, yeah, the air balls I think was like the notable thing of, it spoke to how tight Tennessee's defense was, the amount of those threes Miami, Ohio had to force. I mean, maybe the last 10 minutes of the game, they started getting Tennessee in their rotations more and getting some pretty good looks. But really, the first 30 minutes of the game, I thought there were very few easy open shots that Miami got, and the kind of Tennessee, it just felt like it probably speaks to how bad SMU is on defense and the effort that they must have
Yeah.
put in that game. But it really felt like Miami was taken aback by the athleticism. I thought they had some silly turnovers at times in that game, dealing with ball pressure too. So it kind of what when we talked about Miami, Ohio on here a couple weeks ago, kind of what I thought Tennessee would be able to do to them. I like everybody. I got a little nervous seeing them hit the 16 threes against SMU.
Yeah.
But Tennessee just a far superior team.
It almost felt to me, I don't know, it might be off, but it felt like Tennessee almost pushed them out further and further on those threes too. That was the other, I think, maybe a contributor to those air balls. It's just you could tell
Definitely.
clearly what the game plan was.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. It felt like Tennessee made them run their offense from farther and farther away, and it just nothing Miami did seemed very comfortable on the offensive end.
No. So, at that point, Tennessee races out to a 19-point halftime lead. They coast to a 78-56 win. Notably, they did all this without Nate Ament scoring a single point because Jacoby Gillespie had a spectacular game, probably one of his best as of all.
Yeah, no doubt. He was terrific offensively. Just felt like he was in complete control early in the game. What I'm sure the game plan was to get the ball inside. I felt like he did a really good job of getting inside to Tennessee's big men, and then as things started to open up a bit for him, just taking advantage of his opportunities, and that it was about as good as he's played. He was very efficient shooting the ball from three. He was really good at running the offense. Had 9 assists, couple really nice passes, couple steals where he got out in transition and got other guys involved. So it was kind of, we would have expected more from Nate, but somewhat what you might have thought it would have looked like, or if you would have said Nate's going to score 0 points and Tennessee's going to win, it looked like how it was going to look. Jacoby was going to be really good, and then Tennessee's big men were going to be able to score inside and take advantage of their size advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, and those inside guys were great. JP Estrella, 14 and 10. Felix Okpara, 12 points. And some of those Jacoby Gillespie assists were Felix was the beneficiary, right? A lot of lob dunks and all of that. So Tennessee ends Miami's enchanted season, and they move ahead to the second round, which was clearly not going to be as easy as the Vols. We're going to face another 30-win team in 3-seed Virginia, and we knew this one was going to be tough. I thought Tennessee obviously got out to a great start in the first half, but then they had to weather a furious Virginia comeback, and then also Tennessee had to avoid beating themselves a little bit later in the game, but they punched their ticket to a 4th straight Sweet 16 appearance. It's familiar categories, though, that set the tone early. Points in the paint. They did it against Miami. They've done it all season long. They had a 20 to 8 edge in points in the paint in the first half against Virginia. And I don't know, had people feeling good at halftime, although it would have been nicer to have even a bigger lead. They were only up 5 at half.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like for the first, I guess Tennessee really didn't take control until that 10-0 run around the halfway point in the first half,
right.
When they went from down 3 to, I think, about up 7. The next 20 to 25 minutes of the game, it just felt like Tennessee was in control but never could gain much separation. Virginia would just hit enough threes Tennessee got it to 8 or 9 points. It felt like Virginia was going to hit a 3 to get it back, and it felt like so much of the game went back and forth between about a 4-point Tennessee lead and a 9-point Tennessee lead. And then Tennessee starts, turnovers which they were so good with in the first 30 minutes of the game, became a major issue down the stretch. I think a 1.5 turnovers on 7 possessions, and almost mystifying, really. Tennessee made 2 baskets in the last 7 minutes of the game. They fell behind with 2 minutes to go and didn't make another field goal and won the game. So some of it kind of mystifying and how Tennessee got to the finish line, but obviously the most important thing is that they did. I thought still, even with that shaky finish, one of their more complete performances of the season when you just look up and down the box score. I said it to Rick Butler in our little post game. I think, and there will probably be another game where this is the case, but it's a little prisoner moment. It is one of the few games this year where it felt like everybody that played for Tennessee, there wasn't anybody that I would say played poorly.
Yeah, I thought so too. I mean, look, that second half, again, there were some hand-wringing moments for any fan, I would say, myself included. But, I think Virginia led by 1 point for just a brief moment, right? They took the lead on a 3-point shot by DeRitter, I believe it was. And so, again, had everybody on edge, but then the Vols tightened up. They regained that lead. Never relinquished it, and man, partly due to wait for it, we had clutch free throw shooting. Jump. This is the stat you've been barking about for the last week or so.
Yeah, no, it helps when those clutch free throw shooting moments. You get Jacoby Gillespie on the line, but like I said, Tennessee didn't make a field goal after they went behind 1. Nate Ament, got downhill and got to the basket and got fouled and made 2 free throws. And starting there down the stretch, Tennessee shot 11 of 12, I think it would have been. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 of 10 at the line. Bishop Boswell had a 1 of 2 trip. So, that was huge. That was how they got there. I did watching the game back last night. I think I knew it was a big play at the time, but maybe underappreciated how up in the air it was Bishop Boswell going and getting that ball when Nate just got trapped and threw a bad pass back towards the middle of the court. Like, that was a huge play of Bishop. I mean, it was really just a jump ball between Bishop and Chance Mallory. Certainly Bishop has the size advantage, but for him to go up and get it, clearly got fouled. That was such a huge play. I think maybe in the moment, the fact that he only made 1 or 2 free throws, I downplayed it a little bit because it was still just a 2-point game. But that play just so easily could have been a Virginia layup going the other way to take the lead. And Tennessee gets that stop, or Bishop gets that ball, gets one other stop, and really was in the just make free throws and don't have silly turnovers, and you're going to win the game mode from there.
Yeah. Let's talk about Bishop for a second. We'll come back to Jacoby Gillespie and how clutch he was and how Nate did. But this was a shout out to the unsung Vols, right? I mean, Bishop had a great game, and it was nice to see because we haven't seen one of those in a while. 13 points, 9 assists, 4 big 3-pointers. We actually had a 2-guard, an effective shooting 2-guard in this game. And then that play you mentioned too. I mean, Bishop was really, really integral to this one, as was Jalen Carey.
Yeah, Carey, I thought in the first half was big. I would throw, and I'll give a certain shout out later, but like JP, I thought played really well in this game. But again, he just kills you with the foul. Like, his second foul was just so silly. 5 minutes into the game, not even really making a play on the ball, not on offense, like just so avoidable. So that thrust Jalen Carey into a bigger role, and Carey in the first half provided a boost for Tennessee offensively that I thought was huge. And he had an all-time no, yes. And I think his lone point to the second half when he went up on a post move on Yinso and got an and one, and then his free throw hit the back of the rim and went up about 7 feet in the air and dropped through, which was kind of when I thought, all right, this might be Tennessee's night. So he was big in Tennessee building that lead in the first half. In Bishop, he would just I think it's hard not to be happy for the guy from the 3-point shooting aspect, knowing how much work he put in the offseason. He was not shooting it well. He shot it well for so much of the season, not in a huge volume, but was efficient on the threes that he took. and really had not shot well leading up to that game. And for him to hit 4 and 9 was huge. I mean, you said it. It's kind of offensively what this team's been missing, a shooting guard at that spot that can hit open shots. And, his previous career high was 2 made threes. He makes 4. I think just as important and, more to the look forward of, probably unrealistic to expect Bishop to go out there and hit 4 threes again in a game this weekend. Can he go out there and have 9 assists and not turn the ball over in a game? Can he go out there and have 5 assists and not turn the ball over on Friday night against an Iowa State team that forced a lot of turnovers? Like, that's as much as they've needed the shooting from the shooting guard spot, they've needed somebody that can handle the basketball and just take some pressure off of Jacoby, or even just let Jacoby, run off pin down screens and try to get shots that way. Like that opens up so much for Tennessee offensively. So you had that combination. Bishop hit shots, which was huge, but he also facilitated really well, handled the ball, a lot of times full court against Virginia pressure, and didn't put the ball in harm's way. I thought that was just as important.
Kind of amazing that we're speaking Jalen Carey and efficient in the same sentence, but he was that, man. It was again, we don't win the game without those two guys. And you mentioned JP. The early foul trouble sucked, but he did make a couple big plays. And then Felix Okpara, by the way, we heard so much going into the game about Virginia, leading block shot team in the country, Onyensu, Grunlow, all this stuff. Felix had 4 blocks himself. We kind of held serve with them and blocked shots. And, Felix, the contributions he makes sometimes that aren't baskets are just enormous.
Oh, no doubt. And I think he's been super unsung this year because the way Tennessee's playing has forced him defensively to play more like a 4. He's the big man that always has to guard out on the perimeter, which has just naturally meant his block numbers are much lower than they've really been at any point in his college career. But he was fantastic. I would say one of the biggest plays in the game, Tennessee up by 1 after those Nate free throws. He gets switched and he's guarding, a wing player. I want to say it was Hall. Maybe it was Lewis, but I think it was Hall who drove in, and he had really good defense on kind of a fadeaway and then grabbed the rebound. I thought he was really good in that game, maybe short a couple possessions in the second half where Tennessee was struggling to get stops and he kind of got blown by. But he was really good. And I would say, I mean, you just look at the last 3-4 weeks. It's interesting. It kind of starts right around the time Tennessee started to struggle. I would say it started with the Oklahoma game, and then they obviously beat Vanderbilt. Those were 2 good wins, and then Tennessee started to struggle. Since then, I mean, he's played, it's an 8-9 game stretch now, and he's played really well. I feel like he's playing as well right now as he has at any point in his Tennessee career.
Yeah, I would agree. I would totally agree. So back to those were the unsung heroes. They all contributed, and then Amari Evans had good, meaningful minutes too. Made some big defensive stops. Back to our 2 main guys, though. Nate Ament provided a lot more offense in this one than he did in that Miami game. He still doesn't look 100% on the floor physically. And then compound that with, the guy scored 16 points, so it's hard to complain about that. He did struggle a bit in the second half with a few silly turnovers, but the guy is trying to work his way through. And, man, you can't deny the effort that he's making given the fact that he's banged up.
Yeah, he just – being up there, being close this weekend, just like the care, it just, that's the word that comes to mind. Is just how much he clearly cares and badly wants to win. And yeah, that's what I need from him. Like I don't, he did it against Auburn, so I'm not going to say I'd be shocked if I see it, but like, I don't feel great about his ability to go over and like take over a game at this point. But just for him to grit out what he did and to, that's what I need in these games. He can't be a 0. He can't be what he was against Miami, Ohio at this point to see, from now on in Tennessee to win games. But they can win games if he, even if he's not at his best, even if he's physically limited, if he's going out there and, is able to score 15, 16 points, just provide that secondary boost. Now they're going to need Jacoby Gillespie to be really good in those instances. But that's what he was. And he was pretty efficient doing it. 4 of 11 from the field. It wasn't like he took just a ton of shots and, he made some mid-range jumpers. He got Tennessee off to a fast start in the second half. I think he scored Tennessee's first 6 points, I want to say, first 8 points in the second half, including 2 field goals. So you still saw it in spurts. He he was good, like you said. Clearly not 100%, but he played well, and that's what Tennessee needs. Even if he can't be a guy that's taking games over, they just need him to give them something.
Yeah. Jacoby Gillespie, I mean, look, I'd raise my hand. I'm one of the first ones this season who has been critical of some of the kind of the late game blunders he has had in the past, but and he wasn't as electric as he was against Miami. I think Virginia probably gets a little credit for that, but he ended up finishing with 21.6 assists, those 6 free throws late. I mean, this guy, man, I'll ride with him till the end. He's clutch. There is no question about it. And a quick stat to bounce your way, Ryan. I think I shared this with the RTI guys yesterday that I found that they say only 3 players have had 50 plus points and 15 plus assists in their first 2 games in the tournament. Billy Donovan, back when he was a player in '87 for Providence when they went to the Final Four. Kemba Walker in UConn's 2011 championship run. And then Jacoby Gillespie this past weekend.
And those
pretty clean.
Pretty good company. And as you said with the Kemba thing, those are 2 teams that made the Final Four with Billy Donovan, Rick Pitino at Providence. So it's encouraging. I think that's the most encouraging thing I would say from this first weekend as you're projecting the second is Jacoby has found a shot. He'd been slumping so bad. It felt like he kind of came out of it in the loss against Vanderbilt. And then just went to a different level. And, I'll say it. I think he was even better in the Virginia game than he was in the Miami game. I know the stats don't back it up, but just with what Virginia has rim protection wise, that made it difficult for him to get stuff at the rim. They were putting in a ton of effort in trying to run him off the 3-point line and not let him get open looks. Like you just look at the shots that he made in that game. And what did he shoot? 6 of 11 from the field, 6 of 14 from the field. So not efficient.
Sounds
but,
right.
That 2 really tough runners over on Yinso. He had to kind of scramble drill 3 late in the shot clock. There was a huge shot in the second half. Like he hit a lot of difficult shots. I thought he did a good job getting others involved in the game. Again, as has been the story, a couple turnovers late that were bad, but overall, I just thought he was really, really terrific.
Yeah, and 38 minutes again. By the way, this guy is just a warrior. So it's a great observation on your part. The last thing I'll say to put a bow on this Virginia game, and then we're going to start moving forward on what lies ahead. What a wild dichotomy. And it was nice for us to be seeing it from the other side this time. I felt what did Virginia in. I mean, they didn't shoot many free throws, but when they shot them, they shot poorly. And then their ineptitude around the rim. I mean, the announcers said at one point, Ryan, I haven't parsed it out specifically, but they said at one point that Virginia underneath the basket they were 3 of 15 at one point. And hey, we can certainly relate, right? I mean, that's kind of been the story of our season, but it was nice to see happening to someone besides us this time.
Yeah, they finished, according to the stat broadcast, 12 of 25 on layups and dunk attempts. And they did get some easier ones down the stretch in the second half. But even then, Jakari White misses the reverse layup in a big spot in the game that would have changed things. It wasn't just an easy shot, but one you'd expect him to make. So, yeah, that was huge. And you talk about the irony, it kind of reversed. And free throws were a huge aspect of this. Tennessee shot 14 more free throws. But, the Vanderbilt regular season, the Alabama lost in the regular season, those games, Tennessee took way more shots than their opponent and lost. This game, Tennessee took 14 less shots than Virginia. They shot 8% better from the field. That was, how they were able to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned Jakari White. I don't know how you felt, but when he got that open look for a 3 late in the game, I was like, oh, no, here we go. And he airballed it. Which
terrible defensive breakdown.
And
he came out and scored 8 points like quick in this game and really, really cooled off. That was, I felt like, Virginia has like 3 guards between White, Thomas, and Mallory that kind of average around 10 points a game. It feels like when I've watched them this year, and doing a little bit of research, it feels like it's like one of those guys goes off every game, and then others kind of struggle. It was kind of the opposite. Like they all just kind of scored to their average. Thomas scored 12 points, Mallory and White scored 10. So Tennessee did a good job of not letting any of those guys really get going, which has obviously been something that has plagued this team at times.
And also, shout out to Dallin Hall, because we had that controversial out of bounds play in the post game. He admitted, he goes, "Yeah, I think I touched it."
Yeah, I didn't. That's one of the classic, like, me losing. You can lose sight of some of, like, the hoopla outside of the game, because that play happens. And I'm play a couple times, and then really more trying to work, and I'm like, yeah, I think he touches it. It's really close, but I have a hard time thinking they're going to overturn it. And then I didn't really even realize until really yesterday, until Monday. Like, I saw the comment Sunday night from him. I didn't see Monday night or Monday until what a controversy it was on whether he touched it or not on the internet, of how much Virginia was saying that he, which makes sense. That's how these things go. But and I guess the last thing I was going to say is Virginia tied the game with about 4 minutes left, 4:44 left, 66-66. JP Estrella was big, back-to-back possessions. He gets fouled to shoot the bonus. I felt like you could just see that coming. He was going to miss the front end of the bonus, and that game was going to start getting away from Tennessee. He hit 2 free throws. Virginia tied the game again, and then he went down and hit a or kind of to the baseline. So that was, in a big spot in the game. He came up clutch with 4 points on 2 consecutive possessions.
Well, that's a big win. And so, again, 4th straight Sweet 16 for Tennessee, which, hey, we've been – I'm speaking as a fan now. I've been tough on this team this season, and they've been up and down, but that's an incredible accomplishment, and got to move forward now. They're 24-11. They head over to Chicago. They're going to face the regionals 2 seed in Iowa State, a team that has spent most of the season, to my recollection, Ryan, they've been at a minimum ranked in the top 10 and a lot of times in the top 3 or 4. I mean, they've been in the high rent district all season long. Very, very good game on tap. Very, very good team on tap.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost a little bit like Tennessee. They scuffled down the stretch of the regular season. They lost 4 of their final 8 games, but very much feels like they're back to playing at a high level. I mean, they beat Texas Tech. They killed Texas Tech in the Big 12 tournament. They lost a game to Arizona in the semifinals. It really could have gone either way. A really good game. And then, obviously just dominated Tennessee State. And after a rough first 7 or 8 minutes against Kentucky, really dominated that game too. So, it's I don't think a terrible matchup for Tennessee or anything, but certainly an Iowa State team that was in the 1 seed conversation a lot this year and at times this year. I mean, they won their first 16 games, and I think we're as high as like number 2 or number 3 in the country in the AP poll. So a very formidable opponent. And then obviously the Joshua Jefferson news is kind of top of mind as we enter the week.
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk about Josh Jefferson in a second, but these guys, they're ranked 7th overall in KenPom, in Torvik, and Evan Miyakawa, 17th in offensive efficiency, so they do score the ball pretty proficiently, 5th in defensive efficiency. I feel like there are you mentioned some similarities in their season trajectory. I think there's some similarities to the Vols in approach as well. I mean, they grind on defense. They shoot better than we do, at least over the course of the season, although I feel like a lot of their team shooting percentage has been buoyed by Momcilovic's shooting, because that guy's a beast as far as shooting proficiency. So they got him. They've got not many guys nationally that shoot at the volume he does, that shoots about 50% from 3-point range. And I mean, who do you think gets the assignment for him? Is that Nate?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be Nate, really. And that's what Tennessee has done on those type of guys this year, is try to put Nate on him to bother him with his length. Obviously, the health standpoint you worry about, but he's not. He's not a guy that's going to take players off the dribble a ton. So I don't necessarily worry about Nate's health as much when it comes to guarding him. So I would think he would be the one to get that assignment.
Yeah, I watch his game, and he's got that fadeaway baseline. It's kind of Nowitzki-esque. He's pretty effective there. Taman Lipsey is a stud at point guard. I feel like there's some through lines. I feel like I get some Zakai Ziegler vibes from him because he just does a little bit of everything. A little undersized, but he's tough as hell. Um, I picture the matchup with him and Jacoby is going to be pretty elite.
Yeah, Lipsey's not like just an elite player or like a great athlete or does anything just spectacular, but he's just good all around, kind of your traditional point guard in a lot of ways. He does get a lot of steals. That's probably what he's best at from a stat standpoint. But just a player that knows his role, knows how to get everybody involved. Should, like you said, should be a really fun point guard matchup.
Now, Joshua Jefferson, who you mentioned a moment ago, obviously, arguably the best player on their team, and he missed the game against Kentucky. It didn't seem to matter. They powered through and won that game going away. I've seen some things, like on CBSSports.com, et cetera, about his status. There was some person who said that they even think he could play on Friday. Man, we know firsthand, we've been seeing it with Nate. High ankle sprains are no joke. I mean, if that's what he's dealing with, we don't know. We're not medical experts, but I wonder that even if he plays, is he going to be that impactful?
Yeah, no, 100%. It's hard. I kind of have a hard time imagining that he's going to be able to play at least like a full allotment of minutes. And if he does play, I mean, it's nearly impossible to think that he's going to be at 100% or fully himself. And that's a huge dynamic. I mean, you said maybe their best player. I think he's definitely their best player. Does everything, rebounds, scores, passes the ball. Second right now in Ken Palm's, player of the year rankings, second team All-American from the AP. Like he is a stud and does so much of their offense runs through him, not only just with him scoring, but the way he facilitates for others. So, I mean, it's massive. Like it completely changes the dynamic of the game of what if he's able to play and if he does play, how much he's able to do.
And they're not a very big team to begin with, even with him on the floor. So without him, that I don't know, that feels like that swings to an opportunity for us. And I think that's a good segue into I want to get your take, Ryan, on what you feel are the keys for the Vols to win this and advance to a third straight Elite Eight. And then maybe also what's your biggest worry in this game?
Yeah, I think it's one and the same. If I'm talking biggest key and biggest worry, and it's taking care of the basketball.
Yep.
Iowa State ranks 4th nationally in defensive turnover percentage. That's how they flipped the Kentucky game. Like they just absolutely went pressure on Kentucky, and Kentucky kind of folded against it. They turned the ball over a ton. Iowa State was really struggling to score in that first half. Like they looked like they felt the presence of not having Joshua Jefferson out there, and then they got a bunch of steals and they got out in transition and scored that way. So to me, that's the most important thing, just because of how much of what Iowa State does is based off of that. All the more so the worry aspect. Tennessee does not do a very good job of taking care of the basketball. And you just look down their sheet on Torvik and you look at all their individual games, the games they lose, the common denominators, typically they don't turn over their opponent a ton. So that's a huge thing. Reasons maybe to feel good about this game, like Iowa State does not have a great game because of the size. They don't have a great 2-point defense. They don't block many shots around the rim. I do think Tennessee can, like the Virginia game. The Virginia game was a really good game for Tennessee to go out and shoot 8 of 19 from 3-point range, because it felt like they needed to hit perimeter shots or get to the foul line. This is a game I think Tennessee can be able to score inside on. Iowa State, I think it's 6 and 7. I think Isaac Trotter had it in his article breaking down the game in all the Sweet 16 matchups yesterday. They're 6 and 7 in games where they give up give up rebounds on 31% of opportunities. Obviously, Tennessee, a lead offensive rebounding team, feels like they can take advantage and get over that mark. And then just the way Tennessee, defends the rim too, I think can put a lot of pressure on Momcilovic. So it's not, it's going to be a really tough game, but from a pure matchup standpoint, there's some stuff that I like for Tennessee. I just think so much of it is about if they can take care of the basketball and not just be, because that's the thing that you would look up matchup wise is really bad for Tennessee. And if they can, I'm sure it's not going to be great, but if it can just not be overwhelmingly terrible, like there's a lot about this matchup I like.
Yeah, we can't afford. I think Kentucky ended up with 20 turnovers against Iowa State. And to your point, that's what swung the game. I mean, it felt like you used the term earlier for Tennessee against Miami that of choking out. That's exactly what it felt like Iowa State did to Kentucky, and Kentucky just couldn't respond to it. And that does worry me a little bit. I'm trying to think of what a suitable number of an acceptable number of turnovers for Tennessee would be in this game, because I don't see this being a game. If Tennessee only turns the ball over 6 or 7 times, we're going to win.
Yeah.
I feel confident of that, but I'm wondering what's the number that we could still be in that game and not exceed, get damage that's irreparable, so to speak.
Yeah, I think like 12 kind of
Yeah.
the number. Like if you can keep it to 12 or less, and certainly some of it just depends on how many possessions there are in the game. But if you can keep it to 12 or less, like I think that gives you a shot. And if you keep it in single digits, like I'm going to feel really good about Tennessee's chances of winning.
Yeah, I agree. I don't worry about us defensively against these guys.
No,
I really don't.
same.
Yeah, we talked about Momcilovic. I mean, you kind of know what the agenda is. I mean, again, they shoot as a team really well from 3-point range, but it's mostly fueled by him. You look across their starting lineup, there's not a 3-point shooter that's above 37%. And that guy was Joshua Jefferson, who may not even be playing. So I think
Yeah.
that's a big development.
Yeah, Jamarian Bateman, the freshman guard, is kind of the other guy from a shooting standpoint. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he shot around 37% and has hit like 55 threes. So he's a good shooter, but again, it's not from a play. I mean, Tennessee played 2 teams that want to shoot threes on, just about every possession in the first round. It's not that way.
Yeah.
And Jefferson, I think, is a tough matchup for Tennessee. Like I don't like. I mean, he's a tough matchup for anybody. He's really good. I don't think Tennessee has a guy that's just naturally built to guard him. But I think even if he does play, there's some comfort in the standpoint of that's how Testa Ritter was too. Tennessee didn't have anybody that naturally guarded him. Like it's very similar games. It's like 6'9" stretch fours who can hit shots from the perimeter, but also punish you inside. And not that Tennessee just did a great job on the Ritter, but at least they put Felix on him, and at least they kind of have the experience of facing someone like that. And in the immediate future, they know kind of what the keys are to slowing something like that down.
Two final key items for me is, again, we're fortunate as we're playing a team that shoots free throws worse than us percentage wise, which is rare to say, but that's a potential factor. And then also I'm struck by, for a team that's as tough defensively as they are, we've said they're not that big. They don't rebound that well, right? Their rebounding percentage they're pretty lowly ranked nationally.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say they're bad. I mean, they're still 65th nationally in defensive rebounding and 35 in offensive rebounding. So good, but maybe not, just exceptional like you might expect with the way they play. And look, like that's something I was going to say a minute ago, just your initial point. Like I've said this in people before, like Iowa State is Big 12 Tennessee as a program. That's how TJ Otzelberger is a defensive first guy like Rick Barnes is. He's been there for 5 years. They've ranked in the top 15 in defense efficiency all 5 years. They ranked first nationally in 24. They've been a little bit better offensively these past few years than Tennessee traditionally is. But that's the program identity. That's the type of team that you're facing. And, I think in some ways, like this is almost kind of like how I felt like with the Tennessee Creighton game a few years ago, where it's like 2 good programs trying to get over that hump. Iowa State's kind of in that similar boat of they've had NCAA tournament success, but they're still trying to get over that hump and make a Final Four with this collection, this group.
Yeah. Well, Friday can't get here quick enough. Can't wait to watch that game. But let's as we close out the Midwest region, if Tennessee wins that game, who would you rather face? Because I'm going to present this to you between Michigan and Alabama. At first blush, I'm like, of course, it's Alabama. Michigan looks like a wagon the way they handled St. Louis in the second round. I mean, they've been my pick to win it all. I still stand by that. But Ryan, there's part of me that thinks we got to have the shot at the Final Four, but losing at a shot for the Final Four to Alabama just makes me sick.
Yeah, I get it, but it's just to me so clearly Alabama. Like Tennessee faces Alabama, I'd give Tennessee a 55% chance to win. Tennessee faces Michigan, I wouldn't give them more than a 25-30% chance to win. Like Michigan is, I've thought all season, a terrible matchup for Tennessee. So it's Alabama. You're right. That would be brutal to lose that game, but you got to roll the dice. I'd rather roll the dice and have the chance to potentially win that game. Now, the part that to me becomes worse or more difficult in the rooting standpoint is Alabama-Michigan's the first game on Friday. I'd be rooting for Alabama to win for Tennessee's sake. Well, if Alabama wins and then Tennessee loses, then it's like, Alabama could easily, especially if Joshua Jefferson doesn't play, I'd probably maybe picked him to beat Iowa State. That's almost where my mindset of not wanting Alabama to win comes in more of Alabama maybe making the Final Four and, not having to go through Tennessee to do it.
Nah, that's a good point. So the Sweet 16 is set, like we said. Out of those 16 teams, the Big Ten, you got to tip your hat to them. They have 6 teams in the third round. They're the only conference that has a guarantee of at least one team getting to the Elite Eight because Nebraska and Iowa play each other in the round of 16. They had 6 teams going to the third round. SEC was next with 4, the Big 12 with 3, but 3 really good teams. Big East with 2, and then the ACC, true to form, they have Duke. That's about it. That's about it. Anything that obviously Iowa taking down Florida was a big surprise, and then Texas's run. But as far as the first and second round, was there any big surprises beyond those that you noticed in the other regions?
Yeah, I mean, I think those were the big ones. I was surprised that Nebraska beat Vanderbilt, to be honest.
What a game, though.
Yeah, a game in a tournament. I mean, just a fantastic game. I liked Wisconsin. I had Wisconsin in my Sweet 16, but they were so volatile that it wasn't just shocking that they lost to a good High Point team. So I think if we're talking about the biggest surprises, to me, it's bar none Iowa. Even though Texas is a double-digit seed, made the Sweet 16, like BYU hadn't played well down the stretch. Gonzaga, to me, it wasn't just a great team this year. What Iowa did, in my eyes, was definitively the biggest surprise of the opening weekend.
Yeah, I mean, they went right at Florida's strength, so to speak, and punched them in the mouth. I did not see that coming. Although a little revisionist history, Ryan, need I remind you that I said Iowa was a dark horse in the Big Ten. I surely didn't think they were going to get to the Sweet 16 in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great call. I mean, you stood by him. Ben McCollum is, just a terrific job that he's done in year one.
Oh, yeah.
For 17 years, Fran McCaffrey didn't make one Sweet 16, and for Ben McCollum to get there in year one, just a terrific coach. And I don't know if you've seen. It's always a fun exercise of the Sweet 16 teams with the 5 logos for the schools that their starting 5 started at. It's a little bit easier this year because there's been a lot more retention, I feel like, in these teams in the Sweet 16 who have made it. But you look at Texas and Michigan. There's one other one in Iowa, St. John's in Iowa, or like the 4 teams that are very heavy transfer. You look at the schools that those kids started their careers at. Iowa, you could get Iowa very clearly because you knew they didn't have a bunch of big time transfer portal class or anything like that. And I think that again speaks to what a job Ben McCollum's done here in year one.
I'll tell you what, and we're not going to talk much about Lady Vols today, but I did think about this, that Ben McCollum, if I'm Danny White, I'm looking at that going, that's what I thought Kim Caldwell was going to be for the women's game. McCollum, huge success at D2, goes to Drake for a year, tears it up, and then goes to Iowa, has him in the Sweet 16. He's done just an amazing job. That's why I always called him a dark horse. I'm just kind of a fan of the way his style, all the way down to the every game with the white shirt and the gold tie and all that stuff too. I'm just a big fan.
Yes, and the D3 comparison is the same. I'll tell you the big difference. They play very, Kim Caldwell wants to get up and down and press. Iowa, the 5th lowest pace in the entire country.
Good point.
They drag that thing into a half-court game and make other teams play their style. I mean, Tennessee plays a slow pace, and they're about 60, 70 spots lower than Tennessee nationally in pace. So an incredible job. It's been interesting between Darren DeVries, who was obviously at Drake. I did see a funny Indiana coach or Indiana tweet that's like, man, we hired the wrong coach from Drake. And Shirts too at St. Louis. Like it's been cool seeing these coaches that have come from lower levels and slowly build up and have kind of they've been popular names in the mid-major ranks for a number of years, seeing the success they've had. Obviously Shirts still in the A10, and DeVries just wasn't a great year at Indiana, but it's been cool to kind of watch that group climb and get bigger jobs and the success that they've had.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and we'll wrap up the show in a minute talking about coaches. But before we hit that, does anything change for you in terms of kind of your outlook on the Final Four based on some of the upheaval that happened in the second round?
Not a ton. I mean, my Final Four is still alive, which is Duke, Arizona, Michigan, and Illinois. I would say I feel really good about Arizona. I feel worse about Duke. They just didn't look great this past weekend. And when you just look at how St. John's, I think, would be a tough matchup, whether it's Michigan State or UConn in the Elite Eight. Like, that's the one I would say I'm worried most about of my picks. Illinois, that Houston game is going to be super tough, but you knew that was there all along.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel better about their chances of getting past the Elite Eight. And then Michigan, I thought they looked great. I think once we had the bracket and you looked at the bracket, it was like Alabama's the team in that region, in the Midwest region, that has the best chance to beat them just because of the way they shoot the three and the volatility that creates. So you wonder about that, but no, it doesn't. Nothing's changed a ton on my outlook. Duke would be the team that I would say I don't feel quite as good about. But everybody else, kind of those top seeds have largely looked how I expected them to. UConn, even though they played well in that UCLA game, they did enough in that Furman game to scare me and still not feel great about them getting through this next weekend. So not a ton of upheaval.
I'm imagining that if things play out in an Elite Eight game in the East with St. John's and Michigan State, that will be an all-time scrum game for sure.
Yeah, I was making the joke because my flight back currently from Chicago as we go through DC on Monday. And it's like, well, Tennessee loses in the Sweet 16 and I get a flight through DC. I might just have to, no layover, just get out and make my way to watch the Elite Eight game. Because whatever it's going to be is going to be a fantastic game. So a lot more, I mean, that people I know upset about the lack of Cinderellas, and I think that's a bigger discussion. But the thing when you have less Cinderellas is it makes for really good round of 32 games and really good games this coming weekend.
No doubt. Well, let's talk as we put a bow on.
I have one last tournament thing.
Oh, yes.
Go get in the bracket. Airing of grievances, not even really airing grievances. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about Vanderbilt complain about the road event or the home court advantage Nebraska had.
Oh, come on!
It's 6.5 hours from Lincoln. Yeah. It's 2 hours further from Lincoln, or from 2 hours further from Nashville to Oklahoma City than Lincoln to Oklahoma City. I'm sorry you don't have a fan base that can get people to the game. Like, what are you talking about? It was a 6.5 hour trip.
Yeah, you mark my words too. That Nebraska fan base is nuts, first of all. And you mark my words, that Iowa-Nebraska game, even in Houston, will be loud as hell. I mean, both those fan bases will be there. I guarantee it. Because that's like, that's a border war rivalry too. I mean, those two, that's a big deal. And to be playing at this stage, that's going to be awesome. Yeah, Vandy, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
I will hear... Well, I just absolute poo-poo on that complaint for Vanderbilt. It's ridiculous. I will hear the overinflated ball complaint. I need sports science to come back and see if the overinflated ball has made an impact on that Tyler Tanner shot not going in. Because I will listen to that one. I don't know that you're right, but I will listen to that complaint. That feels like a more fair complaint to me.
That was a fair point, I have to say. I mean, it did hit the backboard, and I don't know. I mean, but I do think that would deserve a little bit of evaluation, to be sure. So
definitely.
All right, let's talk about real quick. We talked about some of the kind of the rising coaches. I got to think there's going to be a couple of jobs open that are big. A couple have already been filled. Cincinnati got Jared Calhoun. Providence got Brian Hodgson. But the potential of North Carolina and possibly Kansas being open, because Bill Self kind of left a cliffhanger at the end of after his loss to St. John's. Like, I got to reevaluate with my family and everything else. Ryan, that could be crazy if those two jobs come available.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The Kansas one, like, it's interesting in that, obviously Bill Self's a terrific coach, but it feels like they've struggled to sustain success in the transfer portal era and kind of get the right elixir of things. So, that it's certainly different. Like Hubert Davis, it almost feels like a matter of time. Like,
Right.
it just has not clicked there, and it felt like he would for sure get another year because of he loses his best player to injury. But to blow a huge lead like that just changes the dynamics. So, I would think to start with, a lot of eyes would go to the SEC with Todd Golden being the first one in mind, and then maybe Nate Oates after that. I would think Ben McCollum, with what he's done this year, would garner a lot of interest from either of those jobs. I think especially Kansas, just from a regionality standpoint, would make sense. So it'll be interesting to see especially if Kansas, if that comes open. North Carolina feels more likely to me, but where it'll go and where it'll look, and to see if they'll have any success being able to poach these big names. It feels like that's been harder to do in the modern era, just with how more balanced the NIL spending is across the board.
And I keep hearing Ryan Odom's name come up for North Carolina. Am I wrong to say I don't see that happening?
Yeah, that would be a little strange to me. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously his dad was at Wake in the state, but I don't know. I feel like he's a really good fit at Virginia.
I agree.
And it's the same thing with McCollum too. Anybody leaving a job after a year, it feels like that's a little bit of a tougher sell.
Yeah, good coach, by the way. I mean, all these guys we're talking about, all good coaches. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if, given everything that's been going on in Alabama, if Nate Oates does what he did reportedly the last time when Carolina came available, where he reached out to them, was what the word was. I mean, because he might want to reset, just given all the madness at Alabama. And it'd be interesting to see if North Carolina would even consider Nate Oates, just given the
they would.
You think so? I mean, obviously, great coach, but their institutions, got some high standards.
It's the same way. If Kalen DeBoer doesn't work at Alabama, they'd be interested in Lane Kiffin. You can, when you're making the move from the legendary coach to his predecessor, all these schools are going to be high and mighty, and they won't compromise their morals. You go through 4 or 5 years not winning the way you want to win. All that goes out the door. You'll hire whoever. I think it'd be, to me, more. I mean, it seems like the job that Oates has more been eyeing is Michigan State, from what I've heard. So that's the aspect that I think becomes, Izzo doesn't seem like he's nearing retirement or just ready to retire, but obviously it is kind of the same thing with Rick Barnes. He's just at the age that it's got to be sooner rather than later.
Sure.
So that's the aspect that I think with Oates becomes interesting, if he really wants to wait out that job, or if he would bounce to North Carolina if they did come calling.
Yeah. A lot of stuff to watch, but first and foremost, we got the games coming. So we'll wrap it up for this week, and we'll be back next time to either discuss the end of the season for the Vols or stick with me to talk about Tennessee making its first Final Four. You got to believe a little, right, Ryan?
Yeah, I'll start to believe a little more if I see Alabama have more points on scoreboard than Michigan when that game goes final. I just think Michigan's such a bad matchup for Tennessee and such a good team, period. So even if it is, the crazier things have happened, and Tennessee potentially beat Michigan. But for me to truly get in that believe mode, the big Wolverine monster is kind of keeping me from getting too far down that road yet.
Yeah. Well, we'll recap it all. We'll also preview one of the sport's greatest weekends, as we'll talk Final Four with or without the Vols. It'll all be coming next week. We appreciate you checking us out as always. As a reminder, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for the show on YouTube, or download our podcast wherever you listen to your pods. And also, in the meantime, keep it locked in on Rocky Top Insider, RockyTopInsider.com, and all the socials for the very best in Tennessee athletics coverage. Ryan, man, always appreciate being able to do this show with you. Go attack Chicago, man. bring us home a few more wins. We need it, and maybe you'll squeeze a Cubs game in. Who knows?
Yeah, that's the hope right now on both fronts. So
Yeah.
excited for another week, and excited to watch Tennessee play a little bit more basketball this season.
Excellent. Well, safe travels. And to all of you out there, thank you very much for giving us some of your time. Enjoy the games this coming week, and we'll see you next time with another episode of the RTI Rim Runner.